Have you ever heard someone say, or have you said it yourself, I wish I had more confidence, or I wish I had confidence like so and so, right? The quest for confidence is universal, and the desire for more confidence is something that we can all relate to. And that's what we want to talk about today, right? During the Canadian Women in Aviation Conference in Montreal in May, I spoke about building resilience and what it took to build resilience. And confidence is undoubtedly a crucial part of building resilience. And some people think that confidence is something that you're born with, but it's not. It's a skill, and it's something that can be learned and developed over time. And just like a muscle is grown through attention and practice, so too can you cultivate confidence. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am and how I have had the pleasure of coming to you today. I am an air traffic controller and I am an aviation career coach. And for those of you who wonder how those two paths meet, well, I will tell you. I had been an air traffic controller for over 30 years when the pandemic really changed my work reality. And at the time of the pandemic, I was in part of air navigation services called traffic management. And that's the part of the air navigation system where we work with demand and capacity imbalances. I was a supervisor, I had a team of 10 people, and we made sure that demand never exceeded capacity of an airport or a piece of airspace. And it's all around safety, of course. Well, we all know what happened in 2020. There were no more demand and capacity imbalances because there was no more demand. And while many of us hoped that life and aviation would return to normal, nobody knew when that was going to happen. And one morning in November of the same year, I got a phone call at work, and the call said that our unit was being amalgamated with another one, and that myself and my team were losing our jobs. And I probably knew that that phone call was coming on some level, but when I got that phone call, it still felt like a total punch in the gut. I lost more than a job. I lost a role that I absolutely loved. I lost my personal identity. And I did lose my value as well, right along with it. And processing and navigating that change turned out to be far more challenging than I thought it was going to be. I prided myself on being a fairly resilient person. I thought I had resilience. I've gone through a few things in my life. But my reaction to this job loss told me I was anything but resilient, and my confidence took a real beating. That was just over 3 years ago. And in that 3 years, I have definitely been on a resilience journey, and I still am. I have learned who I am, what is important to me, and that I am the only one that can make this life of mine what I want it to be. So, what did I do? Well, I went back to school and I got a diploma in life coaching. I trained to be an air traffic controller again at the age of 52, which, by the way, turned out to be far more challenging than I thought it was going to be. And I also struck out on my own and created a bit of a business to fill a need that I saw was in the aviation industry by combining my love of helping people, that passion I have for coaching, with my knowledge of aviation. Now, I have grown more professional and personally in the last 3 years than I think at any point in my career. And I don't say this for any other reason than to just inspire you that you too can do whatever you set your mind to. My growth happened out of the worst thing that I could have imagined having happened to me. And looking back on it now, I wouldn't trade it for anything. You are here because you want to be better versions of yourself, right? We work in what is still a predominantly male-dominated environment. and stepping in or venturing out of your comfort zone when it feels like you're the only woman or you literally are the only woman in the room can be really daunting. So let's change that, right? Confidence doesn't just happen. It is a skill and it's something that we need to learn and we need to develop over time. And confidence is cultivated through trying and through repetition. And we take new and unchallenging situations and we make them feel safe and comfortable and almost second nature. Building confidence takes effort. I can't just wave a magic wand and just conjure it up for us. And honestly, we probably wouldn't want that anyways, because we know that the growth happens when we do the work. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to first of all talk about what exactly is confidence so that we're all on the same page. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some barriers that hold us back from being confident. And lastly, some tips or techniques that you can use to build confidence in your own life, along with an exercise that you can apply in any situation when you feel you need to be more confident. I want to thank you for your time and being here today. I know you probably have a lot of other things you could be doing. We all have a lot of demands on our time, and I just want to acknowledge that. I promise you won't regret it. So, what is confidence? Well, the Oxford Dictionary says it's trusting in oneself. And that to me is a little bit vague. So I sit and I reflect on my own confidence journey. And I feel confident when I have the resources, the skills, the knowledge to handle something without feeling overwhelmed. And we want to be able to trust in our abilities and our knowledge. And when we can do that, we're going to feel like we can handle any challenge that comes our way and we're able to rise to the occasion. It's a feeling, but feelings alone aren't enough to cut it, right? Feelings are abstract, they change, they can fluctuate from minute to minute. It's more than a feeling. As a controller, I can be really confident that I can separate aircraft. But if I don't actually do anything to separate aircraft, feelings aren't going to cut it. So I love the definition that I found in Psychology Today and doing some of my training around this. And I'm going to share it with you. It is confidence is a belief in oneself, the conviction that one has the ability to meet life's challenges and to succeed. And this is the most important part, and the willingness to act. You know, as a practical person with a little bit of a type A personality, I believe that confidence isn't just about feelings, but it's about aligning those feelings with action. One presenter that I once saw do a talk on confidence said it was the willingness to act. And that really resonated with me. I really believe that confidence is about embodying a feeling and acting on it, going out there, taking that first step and creating the life that you want for yourself. Now, some of you are probably saying, Dawn, I don't have the skill or the knowledge. This is why I don't feel confident. And I want to say, I get it. I really do. I have been there and I'll probably be there again. You know, in those cases, it's really crucial to trust yourself and believe that you have the ability to learn and to grow. You know, this mindset is called a growth mindset. And we want to cultivate it right along with cultivating confidence because it leads to feelings of calm and positivity and empowerment. Like you can handle anything that comes your way. Believing in yourself, just like confidence, is something that's built with effort. It takes time and it takes persistence. You want to tap into courage. Courage and confidence are almost hand in hand mates that walk along. You know, you take that first step, you have the courage to take that first step, and then the confidence grows. You know, you can't learn to fly a plane if you've never taken a lesson, but you can have the confidence that you will if you go to the airport, you go with an instructor, and you take those lessons, and you'll know you're going to solo. It's just a matter of trying. Now, before I go on, I'm going to touch on one thing that I often hear with my clients. What confidence is not, okay? Confidence is not arrogance. I often hear, especially women say, I struggle with confidence because I don't want to appear arrogant. And I'm not really sure what it stems from. It might be just something somebody said to us at one point or a long-standing societal norm. But the two ideas are totally different. Confidence is having faith in yourself. Arrogance, on the other hand, is where you think you're better than somebody. You know, you have this exaggerated sense of self-importance. Arrogant people tend to put other people down, you know, keep them in their so-called place so that their perceived status stays intact. Arrogant people don't take criticism well, if at all. They don't like to hear anybody else's opinions, and they're certainly never going to give credit where credit is due, because any of those actions take away from their perceived status. Confidence, when you see it in somebody else, you know, it's a trait that it's warm, it's inviting, you know, it puts other people at ease. Nobody wants to be around an arrogant person. You know, the two ideas are very, very different. Does that make sense? I hope so. So, why is it a challenge for us as women to be confident? Well, I'm going to start with a universal truth. Confidence wavers in everybody. Even the most accomplished individuals that you can think of have moments of self-doubt. It may never totally go away for any of us. It's just part of the human experience. It doesn't matter your gender, your position, or your stage of life. You can be walking into a classroom, a cockpit, the hangar, the CEO suite for the very first time. And new situations are going to stir up anxiety for you. And it's not about capabilities or skill at that point. It's just simply, it's unfamiliarity with a new situation. You know, the brain is actually really quite lazy. It likes to take the path of least resistance. And when you're in a position and it's new or it's challenging, the brain doesn't know what to expect and it gets uncomfortable. But we have to learn to embrace that discomfort. You're going to hear me say it once or twice or many times. Learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? They're just feelings. So, on to what holds us back. I see a lot of different things here, but I'm going to focus on just 3 things that show up more often than others. And the reason that I want to be strategic in what our barriers are is so that we can really focus those solutions to those issues, right? Be strategic in our solutions to the problems. So the first thing that comes up often is the way we're raised. Our upbringing will play a significant role in how we view ourselves. And if you were raised in a family or you've been in environments where you're given little or no positivity, support, or encouragement, or worse yet, you've experienced trauma, it's going to create almost a void of what confidence looks like, right? It's going to be a journey that seems completely foreign to you. If you've been told you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't deserve it, these create a real negative lens through which you're going to view yourself. And continuous negative thinking and self-talk or negative self-talk really leads to developing limiting beliefs about yourself. And limiting beliefs are very powerful and can be very deeply ingrained. And they become part of this vicious cycle that further fuels more self-doubt, zaps your confidence, and almost creates like this invisible barrier of which you can't get past. You can't get past this comfort zone to do the work. It's long been established that the beliefs that we have, whether they're true or not, are going to shape our actions and direct the tone of our life. But new research into neuroplasticity, the way your brain thinks, tells us that you can literally rewire your brain, affecting how you think and how you feel at any age. You're never too old, which is great. It truly happens through choice and through practice. And with repeated effort and the courage to think differently about ourselves, we can expand our confidence, and with it, the ability and the capacity to build more of it. Recognizing that how you think about yourself may be holding you back is a real self-awareness piece. And if negative thought patterns are something that you struggle with, then a really good place to start is just understanding that they're there and why they exist. Another thing that holds us back is this need or this idea to be perfect. Some of you may know of a McKinsey quarterly report that was issued many years ago, and it pertained to research done at Hewlett-Packard. And in it, what they found was that men would apply for a promotion when they only had 60% of the qualifications. Women, on the other hand, wouldn't apply unless they met 100% of the qualifications. Despite the men and the women having the exact same qualifications, women didn't think that they would be hired unless they were perfect or near perfect. So unless, something changed in the last few years and I haven't seen the research, it just is a story that kind of speaks to where we can be at. Where does this need to be perfect come from? I don't know. Maybe some of us are perfectionists. Maybe it's something that somebody has said to us at some point in time. But the truth is, perfection is unattainable. And trying to do or striving for it is a recipe for self-defeat. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with trying to be the best you can be. Absolutely. I want to encourage that. But when that need for perfection becomes this negative self-talk and you punish yourself because you're not perfect, or you can't find some sort of joy in the accomplishments that you do have or you have had, then we need to kind of look at your view and say, is it reasonable? It's not uncommon to feel like if I'm perfect, I'm going to stand out from everybody else. But is that the only way to do it? Or is this just a story we're telling ourselves? If your expectation is for things to be perfect, then you're going to be disappointed and frustrated when they don't go the way you want. And that in itself is going to stifle your ability to build confidence. Just make sure you're not taking perfectionism so far that you can't see the good that you are. Because when you don't acknowledge the skills that you have and the abilities, the situations that you've seen yourself through successfully in the past, you're missing the perfect opportunity to build confidence by reminding yourself of how capable you are. When I started my business 3 years ago, my benchmark for success was obviously clients. I mean, how else did you have a business if you had no clients? And the very first year, I had several, but only 3 were actually paid. And that fact was hard on my ego. And I thought, well, this isn't a lot of fun. So the second year, I decided to change my expectation, my benchmark for success. And I changed it to, I'm going to create new experiences for myself. what a difference that made. Now I wanted to get onto the computer. I wanted to network. I wanted to reach out because every experience was going to be something that I really wanted to do. And the irony being, out of these experiences I have created for myself, the business has come. So I use that as an example that maybe you can draw some parallels in your own life. The last thing I'm going to touch on is fear of failure. Simply put, we're afraid to fail. Now, no one likes to fail or think that they don't have the skills or the knowledge to handle a challenge, right? Often we are reluctant to act because we will conjure up everything that might happen if we try and we fail, right? Maybe if we fail, we're going to feel embarrassed, or we're going to let somebody down, or maybe we're just afraid to make a mistake. According to a psychologist named Carol Dweck, who's done a lot of work in this arena, she says that women will often correlate failure with their identity. And what she means is if we fail our circumstances, we see ourselves as the failure, the person, right? And that shouldn't be the way it is. We need to stop reading so much negativity into failure. Failure can be useful. We can learn from it, gain new insights, and do things differently or better the next time. Failure's not going to kill us. Remember, self-doubt and failure, they don't have to define you. The right kind of failure can teach us things, right? New information that will get us closer to our goal. We can always learn something from our failures. Did you know that neuroscience has shown that the feeling of uncertainty and failure are very, very similar in the brain? And that's why so many people, when they're faced with taking a chance or trying something new, will shy away from it because they don't like that uncomfortable feeling, right? But again, let's get comfortable with being uncomfortable. These are just feelings and they will not hurt you. So now the most important part of what we're talking about here today is how do we build it? Building confidence has two parts to it. There is kind of the emotional or mental part, and then there's the physical, more tangible part. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. The first thing we need to do is accept who you are and that you can grow. This journey that you're going on has to start somewhere. And it will start the minute that you accept the person you are with all your faults as you see them, I don't, is enough to move forward, right? It's just a starting point. Accepting yourself, believing that you're good enough. It is literally a decision that you have to make. A lot of us think we have to feel good enough to, start acting a certain way. And the reality is you're never going to feel good enough because feeling good enough is the journey that you're going on, right? It's not the destination. It's a choice to say, I'm good enough. I'm just going to go for it. There's no question that our past experiences and our present circumstances can affect how we think and feel about ourselves. But how we process them, how we think about ourselves, and most importantly, what we choose to do as a result of those thoughts is ultimately what matters. Now, once you accept who you are, you have to believe that you have the capacity to grow and evolve. This is that growth mindset that I mentioned before. And this might be a total mind shift for you. Be curious about what you can be. What can you learn? How can you develop? What person would you be in a year from now if you embraced this kind of mindset? It's learning to say, I believe I can do anything if I'm just taught and I have a chance to repeat it. You have incredible potential inside you. I really, really believe that. And I think you believe it too. It's why you are here today. And here's the kicker in all of this. This is where I say building resilience takes work. This mind shift, this thinking of yourself in a different way, in a positive light, it is something that you may have to do many times a day, many times an hour. I remember when I was going through my situation, I think it felt like I was doing it every 10 seconds. And the more I said it, the less confident I even felt. But it's all part of the process. It's normal. Okay. It's going to feel like one step forward and two steps back, but don't let that put you off trying and just persisting through it. Right. We're changing mindsets here. It's not going to happen overnight with the blink of an eye. It takes work. Confidence and self-doubt, they go together. You don't have confidence without having self-doubt. And self-doubt may never totally go away for you, but you still can choose to think that you can. Our potential is only limited by the way we view ourselves. And this neuroplasticity that I talked about, this is exactly it in action, right? Having a positive reflection of who you are and your abilities creates a positive feedback loop. And if we can train our brains to follow this positive feedback loop rather than a negative one, then we can really do some pretty amazing things, because it's just like athletes' muscle memory. Your brain is a muscle. And if you exercise it and you practice, the stronger it becomes and the more automatic the reaction. And in doing so, you're going to train your brain to almost embrace the new and the challenges and the anxiety rather than fearing them, by thinking about the abilities you have and the fact that you are good enough to take that next step. One of the tips that I suggest you do if you're trying to figure out how to get into this space is think about what makes you feel good. Is it exercise? Is it having that endorphin rush? Are you a person that feels good and strong when you have a chance to meditate and just be quiet and settle your thoughts? Maybe you're the social one. You love playing with your kids or your grandkids. Understand what makes you you. What works for me may not work for you. There's no wrong answer here. What we want to do is figure out what works for you so you can tap into that when you need to get into that positive mind frame, that growth mindset, and go from there. The second thing we can do is take action. Now, after everything I've said about the definition of confidence, this probably isn't coming as a shock to any of you. You can't say that you want more confidence and then do nothing about it. You just can't kind of sit on the couch and just will it to happen. It doesn't work that way. Confidence comes from a change in behavior. And from the change in behavior comes the change in feeling. And I'm going to say that again so it's loud and clear. Confidence comes from a change in behavior. And from the change in behavior comes the change in feeling. Psychologists say that it's easier to change our behavior than it is our feelings. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start by behaving with confidence. So I want you to think about what a confident you would look like. What would you do? What would you do differently than you're doing right now? Would you say something? Would you look different? Would you set boundaries for yourself? Whatever you think, make it small, right? Don't overthink it. A lot of times when we think about doing things differently for ourselves, we go from 0 to 60. And that is almost a recipe for failure because there's building blocks within it, right? We want to break down that big picture into smaller, more manageable bites that we can take on one step at a time. When you do things that you're not comfortable doing, even when you feel self-doubt and fear, those are the building blocks of confidence, right? And we're just going to build one on top. What is that one small action that you can take? And then what's the next one? Again, make sure it's small. I have a tip for you for this one too. When you are in daily low risk situations. Behave with confidence. It's in how you talk, you walk, your posture. So sit taller in a meeting. When you're passing somebody in the hallway, smile, look them in the eye, say hello, right? Act like the person that you want to become. Acting confident has an amazingly quick and significant effect on how you feel. Number 3, be prepared. We decided that we're going to take action. We know what we're going to do. But taking action takes courage. And it helps to be courageous if you feel prepared, right? So let's be prepared. In no way I'm saying that you have to just jump into this and just wing it, right? Preparation allows you to become more familiar with material or the situation that you're in, right? When you're well prepared, you know what to expect and how to deal with different scenarios, which will decrease your anxiety and it increases your self-assurance. So, for example, if you want to have a difficult conversation in the cockpit, in the boardroom, in a team, maybe role play what that conversation will sound like with somebody that you trust, a mentor, a coach, a friend. If you're applying for a job and you really want it and you want to make sure you can do everything possible, sit down with somebody, go over your resume, have a mock interview. Or perhaps if you need to make a presentation in a meeting and you're kind of nervous about it, well, just put your hand up in a smaller space and just agree with something that someone said, or just ask a question. Get comfortable with being in front of people. We want to be prepared as best we can. Figure out what that is for you and your situation, then do it. The next thing is stop comparing yourself to everybody else. Stop looking at what everybody else has and using it as a way of feeling bad about where you are because you're not where they are. If you're going to look at other people, only use them as a source of inspiration, not for comparison. Why you're not good enough, why you're not capable enough, why you're not smart enough. This journey that you're on, you are the only person that can make that journey possible. Focus on what you're doing, your challenges, and what steps you're taking to overcome them. Don't spend time and energy on what other people are doing. What anyone else is doing has no effect on you. This world has room for all of us. We all have our own story and our own value that we bring with us, right? Remember, no one else has your story or brings the same value to the table that you do because nobody else is you. Now, this was something that I really struggled with in the very beginning. I used starting my business again as an example. I would go online when I was trying to create the website. I would go online and I would see all these amazing coaching websites, and these women looked so incredibly organized and they had these great reviews and they were quite accomplished. And I was like, whoa, like, why is anybody going to come see me? I don't have that. I haven't done all these things. And I had to think, like, how did I really think people were going to get a hold of me? I was just going to create a website and they were just going to come pounding down my door. I had to put myself out there. I had to market myself. I remember people saying to me, well, how are you going to market yourself? And I went, I don't know. I did ask a couple coaches for their suggestions and input when I started, and I tried a little bit of everything. Some things worked, some things didn't. And I look back at where I was 3 years ago and where I am now, and I've come a long way. And I'll be totally honest with you, I still get a little nervous at times when I have to make that first call or that first contact. But the defining thing is it doesn't stop me, right? Take inventory of your success. That's the next one. You know, so often when we're wanting more confidence, our brains are really good at looking at what we don't have as opposed to what we do have that will see us through a challenge. And it's just the brain doing what the brain does. It's that fight or flight response. But this fight or flight response can actually hold us back unless we recognize that that's what it is and that's what it's doing, right? We have to intentionally move beyond the anxiety and be okay with being uncomfortable sometimes. And we can do that by consciously focusing on what it is that will see us through, the abilities that we do have, remembering situations we've been in before, right? By focusing on your strength instead of your weaknesses, you're going to feel empowered and you're going to feel capable of dealing with challenges that lay ahead for you. You know, optimistic and realistic beliefs in ourselves are the cornerstone of building confident, resilient mindsets. So, another little tip or little trick that you can do, think about a time where you have felt confident before. What was it? Doesn't matter how far in your past it was. What did you say or do that made you feel good about yourself, that made you feel confident? When's the time that there was something that you wanted and you just went for it? Just as importantly, when is the time that you've gone for something, it didn't work out, and you still came out of it feeling like you could hold your head high? Literally write it down. Make a list. Put it on a sticky note. Put it on your mirror in the morning. Put it in your office space. Put it somewhere where you will see it repeatedly. Again, we're creating that positive muscle memory, right? Taking action is the key. Having the courage to take that first step is what we want to focus on. And just anything that gets us there is really helpful. And the last thing I'm going to touch on is find your sense of community. Nobody said this endeavor has to be done solo, right? If you don't feel like you have the capacity or you can't quite get over that hump and you don't reach out for help, then what is the alternative? You know, reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength, right? Reaching out to a coworker, family member, mentor, friend, or even a healthcare professional can make such a difference, right? Having that first conversation might be all you need to kind of move towards the direction of changing your mindset. And knowing that somebody else is going to be there cheering you on may do so much for your positivity. I remember when I was 10, I can remember being in a diving class and standing at the edge of the 3-meter platform. And I had been watching my swim mates jump off it, and it just seemed like so effortless and a lot of fun. But when I got up there and looked over the edge, I can remember my heart pounding like crazy and thinking, I cannot do this. And all my swim mates were treading water in the deep end of the pool, and they were trying to cheer me on to just take that step. I knew if I just took a step, gravity was just going to do the rest of the work for me. I don't remember actually taking the step, but I do remember hitting the water, not gracefully. I remember coming up with a huge smile on my face, my heart beating through my chest. I had the courage to do it, but I needed a little bit of a push. And when I find sometimes that I'm struggling with confidence or trying to figure out what that next step is, I will go to my community and they help get me through it. They help fill my bucket up so that I can go on and help others. But you have to start by helping yourself. Remember, it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning if you've never asked for help before. And the reason it's uncomfortable is because you're learning a new skill. And that's a really good thing. And remember, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Building confidence is not an end goal, but it's a journey and it's a skill that you can learn. You think of it like a ladder. On one end, you've got status quo, and at the top of the ladder, we've got thriving. And you're going to move up and down the ladder depending on where you are, what else is going on in your life. And that's to be expected. Just remember, it's never too late to figure out where you are and what you can do to improve your situation. I want to thank you so much for this time and the opportunity to share my story with you and to share some thoughts around a topic that I am extremely passionate about. I believe in each and every one of you, and I can hardly wait to hear from some of you and hear your confidence journeys and the successes that lay in store for each and every one of you. And to women in aviation, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm eternally grateful.